Great. I think now it's a great time to introduce Kathleen.
Hi, it's great to be here. I'm so excited. I'm coming to you today from Boston. I'm visiting my son, so
Nice.
I'm in Boston today. Yeah, and we had to run out last night to get me headphones. So I'm in like little wired headphones because I realized I forgot my headphones. So yeah, but I am thrilled to be here, and I can't wait to introduce my two guests, or my two coworkers that are joining me today, so that we can talk about what's happening in F#. And we really want to start a conversation about what's coming in F#. So we're going to talk for a little bit. That'd be boring. And then we're going to jump into some serious discussion. And so the producers can be ready, I hope, to throw some questions up on the screen for us. And we will talk about, what are your thoughts about what's important? Because when you see our future slide, you'll see it's really overwhelming, even compared to what we've just accomplished in the last year. So, yeah. So if you want to bring in Chet and Vlad, that would be totally awesome. And you sort of introduced me, but I'll add that I'm the PM over languages, .NET languages at Microsoft. So .NET languages are F#, of course, I'm here, and C#. I think you've heard of that language, somewhere along the line, and also Visual Basic, which is we're still committed to Visual Basic, and we love our languages forever. So I think that's important. And I hear a bad sound somewhere. So did we get that? All right. Okay. Okay. Anyway, so moving on. Vlad, why don't you introduce yourself next?
Yeah, I hope you can hear me. Hey, everyone. I'm Vlad. I am F# team lead at Microsoft. I've been working on F# for, I think, a bit more than 2 years. And I am with Microsoft for almost 10 years. It will be 10 years in 2024. And I started in Skype, and then I was working in Teams, and then I realized suddenly, that the developer tooling is something which I really like doing. Surprise. And then there was an open position in the F# team in Prague, which I applied to, and I really grateful for Don and John Sikira to give me the opportunity to work on it. I'm really enjoying it. Hopefully we're doing a great job.
And Chad, why are you here?
I'm here sort of representing the community. I, along with a few other people, maintain the Ionide suite of tools for VS Code and Emacs and NeoVim and all those delightful editors. But I also, I have a side gig as the .NET SDK PM. So I get to work with you two all day, every day.
Yeah, so you get to answer all of our questions about MS Build and the .NET SDK and why the .NET SDK has such funny numbers. So that's and I'll use Chet took my old job so that I could focus on languages, and so I'm very grateful to him to have done such a fantastic job in that. Well, let's dive in. So can we bring our slides up? We can just kind of go. Who's running the slides? We can skip over the slide. We've just told people who. Okay, so first of all, we are just one part of this team. So we're the folks at Microsoft invest in and has this, it's really important. F# important. And so we will hear a lot about that, but it's really important to say that the work that we do is shared, and we have tons of contributors. I mean, just look at that. And I'm afraid I've just messed up the slide, and I only now realized it. A few of those links don't look like they're going to work quite right, but it's just an amazing bunch of contributors. And I don't know if Vlad or Chet want to say anything more on that, but I know some of you are going to see your names in there, and thank you so much. And I don't promise we got them all. We tried. And you're helping even if you just start asking us questions, because I don't know if I should tell the story or not, but the reason that we got rid of the dot in indexers is because I said, "Oh, I'm so sad about that dot. I hit that dot," and Don said, "I don't think we need that dot," and so we got rid of the dot in front of the indexer. So yay! So when you bring something up and say, "I hate this. I don't like this," that's helpful in and of itself, even if you're not in a position to help us fix it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at that slide, you see contributions of all kinds. I just want to double down on that. Like, this isn't just people doing code. This is people with design ideas. This is people with, enhancements to documentation. This is people making libraries that we use day in and day out. So a large part of F# is all of you.
Yes, thank you. Now, I want to go super quick through some of what we've been doing just to give you an idea of just how much has been going on. But right now, we're just kind of trying to give like an idea of all that's going on because we really want to get to the conversational part of this. And so just for convenience of talking about it, we organized the highlights of what's been going on into three buckets. And I think I missed copying from some previous slides that we've basically done metric ton of stuff across these areas. It's just been so much going on in a whole lot of little things that didn't make a slide, but that in really make a difference. So the next slide. Yeah. So if we look at performance, the performance improvements have included the build time and significantly reduced, particularly in some scenarios. The tooling time has been reduced. The startup time for key tools like FS has been reduced. Graph type checking, Vlad, that reduces the allocations as well as the straight line speed on the compiler.
It's sort of a huge improvement across the board, and this was like 99.9% community contribution. Like we only helped merge them into the mainstream, and it's just a huge improvements across the board. I'm not familiar enough with the feature to to describe any technical details, but we have a really, really good documentation which went in with the feature itself. And like if anyone is interested, just hit me up on the GitHub or elsewhere. I can point you to the what does it exactly improve. But yeah, it's like just improvements across the board. It's the shout out to Florian and Janusz from G Research. It's like it's all their doings. All
right. And then we also have done some things to improve your runtime performance, and some of the inlining in core library is one of those things that's going to improve your own application's performance. Let's take a look at the next slide, see what we're doing in tooling and editors. So you may have noticed you can do F# to C# now. We're still working on C# to F#, but we're committed, and we're working with the C# team to make that happen. So type hints, we have needed type hints. Type hints are very exciting, and when they first came out, they were not quite tuned right. And so the team then did quite a bit of work following up, getting that work just right. And then we love our refactorings. We love our, light bulbs. And so lots been going on there. And then some stuff behind the scenes that fixed some things that led to the parser being more intelligent and being able to get better warnings of errors. So that's some of what we've done across tooling. And then if you go to languages and interop, done a bunch of stuff. I'm going to let y'all read this. I'm not going to go through it. We're going to come back to trimmability, so I'm not going to touch on that right now. But we're very committed to both continuing the language improvements, although right now there's a lot of like hole plugging, little things like that record, the nested record thing was really ugly. And so let's make that right. And C#, by the way, is doing some of the same stuff. Let's just make things better. And then also the interop story, it continues to be a really big one for us. So with that, I think I want to start. I think the next slide's the future, and this is where we want to spend our time. We want to spend the rest of the time right here talking to you and letting you tell us what is important to you. So we've got several things on this slide, and if some of them aren't clear, please ask us. But I'll just say a little bit about the first one, which is that we have multiple editors, and we support the fact we have multiple editors. And it's kind of been fragmented because Visual Studio sat in its own silo, and that's where we're going to make a lot of our investments. It's going to be improving the Visual Studio experience. So you can use F# and C# side by side, and you don't feel like you're in a substandard world on the F# side. So that's a lot of what Vlad's been doing, and we've really come a long way this year. But it's been a little bit siloed. And where possible, it's been pushed down into a layer that can be shared. So they're already working hard on that. But LSP is the next step on that journey. And it's big. It's really a big step. But with that, the editors can better share the underlying stuff like analyzers. So I don't know. What do you want to talk about? I don't know who's producing us, but bring up questions as soon as we get them. And we will BS if you don't give us questions. We are capable of just BSing. But yeah. No questions?
We've got a VS Code stand in the chat.
Oh, what?
Geisha says VS Code is a big W, which I
a big
personally
win.
agree
Yeah,
with.
it absolutely is. Yeah, well, yeah, it's a win partially because of Iodide now. Okay, so yeah, it's and you may have heard some of Microsoft's announcements about improving our C# experience, which will make it easier to use mixed C# and F# projects. So yeah, and Fatlum has a question about that's the one I wanted to bring up. Yeah, great, super. So any investment is too big a word because underneath the hood, they're really different. And some of the experiences are going to be profoundly different. So for example, as we, right now, this moment, Visual Studio Code doesn't support solutions and Visual Studio does. And so there are going to be between them. That is, we're not going to remove all the differences. But I think that also lets each of them rise to their own place, each editor. So on the other hand, Visual Studio kind of stinks if you're talking about, if you like to think about directories instead of thinking about solutions, well then Visual Studio is kind of that's not what it's really designed for. So there are things that are going to stay different about the two. I don't think you're going to see a moment you say, oh, I can't tell the difference. However, we do want to say that if we want to move towards a world where, like if we add a new analyzer, it's just across the board. And that's really our vision for that. It's going to take us a long time to get there. So when we're talking about the future, we're not talking about just .NET 9 and F# 9.
Yeah, and to piggyback on sort of the tail end of that, like me and a couple other folks, like right now we do have parallel development that happens of things like code fixes, of things like specific analyzers, right? Right now, there is a shared core called the Compiler Services Library that Vlad's team publishes for the community to use on a very regular cadence. And so we inside Ionide do make use of that. But the goal that we have is to contribute those upstream where possible and to put them in that shared layer. So it's not just VS getting use of them, but VS Code as well. And anyone who hosts editor tooling based on that shared layer. We want to make that grow over time.
And I think that answers another question that we had about, is there any plan to pair up Ionide folks to make the VS Code experience better? And the answer is, well, Chet works with me and talks to either Vlad or I almost every day. So we're very in the loop. We're in the loop on both how F# integrates in with the SDK and your experience there, which is one of Chet's jobs. Actually, I think it's his day job. And then Ionide, which is his passion, his love. We're also there, and the team works with both him and Christoph. So it's very important that we support other editors. We would like you to use Visual Studio, of course. We're Microsoft, okay, but we love F# more, and we know the F# ecosystem needs a broad range of editors. So yeah.
I would like to add to the to the Ionide question, or the LSP and analyzers in general. So the whole idea of having the so if it wasn't clear, like I just wanted to expand that by LSP we want to have a single LSP server, library, you name it, so we can host it everywhere, including Visual Studio. And on top of that, we want to have a standardized F# analyzers SDK, which the idea we had for a while now, but nobody is brave enough to, pick it up again and work on it. But in general, we want same experience in VS Code or any LSP based editor. That's why I think eventually we need to talk to community. We need to talk we need to plan it. We need to do a lot of things. But eventually we want to have one thing which is hosted in a respective editor. And if we add code fixes, if we add refactorings, if we add features, navigation, whatever, you name it, it lights up in both, or in many, let's say.
That's great. I think we should let our producer put that question they put up a couple of times back up, and let's move on to it, because I know that we're making our producer look crazy here. So the question, yes. Okay. And I'm going to let one of you take this one. How do we take Fable? I'm not quite sure the intent. Does anybody understand it?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Vlad.
Fable is external product, and I'm very excited about Fable. I think it's a great thing, and I honestly wish we worked more with Fox, but I think this is something we can fix quite easy. Starting with a simple, not breaking them with every change we make to the compiler service. And this is just a matter of making it. Well, I mean, I make sound it easy, right? But it's matter of having proper integration testing in place, I guess. But I think it's great, and I think we have to work more together. Sorry, Chet, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, and I was just going to really quickly, for those of you that don't know, that if you integrate with us, our ability to get into our previews is something that we're kind of tweaking, trying to make that better, because it's one of the ways that we do not make it easier or anybody else who's trying to be ready for our next version. Getting into our preview stack is not as easy as it should be, and it is on our list for sure.
Yeah, just as we say here, double clicking on Fable. Fable is awesome. We actually use it exclusively in the Ionide tooling to make the VS Code extension part of Ionide. So we love Fable. We've been big proponents for a long time. Our goal in Ionide is strongly influenced by Fable. We want VS Code to be sort of an ideal place to do Fable applications, because that kind of transpilation-based workflow is critical to getting to other ecosystems. So I view Fable as a core part of the ecosystem growth story for F#. But at the same time, there is another way to write end-to-end applications that is WebAssembly-based. There's the Blazor stack that Microsoft puts out, and the Bolero tooling on top of that to make it field native in F#. And that is a parallel sort of app construction tool set that is just as important.
All right, so we only have about 8 minutes left. So let's get this one. And then after this one, can we talk about Jonathan's question about generators? We can do that after this one. That would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Build speed. It's gotten better, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's gotten better. It's gotten better with all the work community done, and also team is doing amazing job in things like better reference assembly support. Now it's going to be even faster. I think Tomasz is about to merge his change to the main. We also have we're doing some work on the incremental builder on better reusing the type checking results, better caching, better everything. One of the things we really want to invest in is tooling quality and performance, and tooling including compiler, including Visual Studio, including the compiler service, which essentially ends up in every editor. And this is absolutely personally, it's my top one thing I want to fix or improve. It's better than it used to be, but it's still not as good in my opinion.
But definitely check out F#9. Are we seeing those improvements in the quarterly releases? The improvements that came from the graph type checking. Is that in the quarterly release, or is that going to come in F#9?
No, it's going to be in F#8. It's I think it's
okay.
in
F#8 is what I meant. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But
it's
but if you want to
8.
Okay. But if you want to see the latest performance, then look at the F#8 previews is where I was kind of going with that. I'm sorry, I was unclear. All right. So I would love to talk about generators for a minute. And this is where you're going to find out we don't have all the answers. So do you want to kick that off, Vlad?
Sure. So generators they're fun. So we've been thinking a lot about supporting them. We want to support them, but the deeper we go into every use case or every feature they provide, the harder it is. Like we're probably going to come up with something because they are, they're going to be more and more used and like more popular, especially in the libraries. Like, if you have a local project, you can provide bindings for C#, etc. Sorry, for F#, etc. But like if you're consuming NuGet, and at some point developers will probably cut off the old ways of doing things, like the runtime as opposed to compile time. We want to support them. We have many ideas. We have like, hey, we need to, we can use providers SDK, but like to use providers SDK, we need to change providers SDK so they can provide more things, and they can be part of compilers, so it's less painful for like to test them. But from what I know, and Kathleen can probably correct me if I'm wrong, there's some work is going on around providers now in C#, including interceptors. And one thing we probably don't want to do is that to provide a solution, and then like if something changes, we need to redo it, or like, fix it, or, do more. So hopefully it somewhat answers. Like, TLDR is, we do want to support them, and we likely will, but it will take time.
Yeah. So just to add a little bit of color to what Vlad said, with AOT, which is ahead of time compilation, which means that you're more ready to go. It's really good for startup time. We're moving where JIT is only one of the options. JIT will still be there, but it's only one of the options. So that requires that we remove reflection. So every library that's using reflection is looking an alternative. Now with beg library authors to not remove their reflection based, because it allows a couple of things, including down-level support for C#, down-level support for F#, even after we get generators, and our generators, we just don't know what that's going to look like yet, because it's a really hard problem. It also gives you support for Visual Basic, and we have hundreds of thousands of Visual Basics programmers that would want to use your library. So I really encourage people to have it be an alternative with the generator, but where you don't have that generation, where you want that generation, it can add a lot. So you can look at what we've done with regex. And so there's things that go on with the .NET runtime itself that's beginning to rely completely on these generators. So there's some problems, like for system command line. Jordan Marr, fantastic wrapper with a DSL, with a computation expression with the for system command line, and that was a great F# solution. It was a better than the generator that we're going to do later for system command line. So there's some cases where we want to let F# be F#, and it makes a lot of sense. Regex is not one of them. So when you type a regex and you put an attribute on it in C# last .NET in .NET 7, then you get faster performance, okay, significantly. And we don't want F# cut out of that. And so it may be more limited, but yeah, it's a hard problem. And we really look forward to your input in discussions and issues and things over the coming 6 months or a year, as we try to get our head around the right place to land F# in this really, really hard problem. So shall we go to the next question with, 2 minutes to go. Yes, we need the last question. So I'm going to let the producer pick the last one, unless Chet or Vlad sees one they want to grab and suggest. No. So VS Code, if it's LSP, we're just focusing on LSP. I don't actually know if VS Mac is LSP. So if they're not, then, well, we hope they will be. I think they are moving that direction, because it is we need a common base for editors. All languages do it. LSP stands for Language Service Provider. It's not just languages. And so we need a common base to be able to have multiple editors gracefully in a world where your editor behavior becomes part of your language in the way the light bulbs do today. Telling you that you can take the dot away from your indexer, which is one of the new refactorings that we have. That becomes just like part of learning your language, a part of working with it. You can't separate the two anymore. And so we really need that common base, and that's what LSP is. So with that, we should be thinking about closing. Okay, last word from Chet.
Last word from Chet. A big thank you to everyone who is part of this community. If you use our tooling, if you provide language suggestions, if you discuss existing suggestions, if you participate in the Slack or the Discord, you are part of what makes this community great, and you are who we are working on this tooling for. So thank you every day for continuing to invest in this community and its tools.
Cool. Last word from Vlad.
Yeah, please continue doing that. Like, keep them coming. We're happy to talk to you and like listen to you and work with you. Thanks.
And I'm going to say goodbye and say that what I want as the last word is to thank Vlad and the team for absolutely fantastic F#9, a fantastic year. And y'all should all stick around till the end of the day to hear from the team. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to our hosts.